Hi everyone, welcome. Come on in. Today we're going to look at everything we've learned in the Nancy Guthrie case over the past little while. Several new pieces of information have been released, including the full ransom notes, Savannah's video, additional video released by interview with Sheriff Nanos. And the surveillance video of the suspects. I'd like to show that again. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and go to the first ransom note. It says, "Hello, Savannah. We have your mother, Nancy. She is safe but scared. She will be held for ransom, and once payment is received, she will be released unharmed. We will be holding her for a maximum of 7 days." And I think right in here is maybe where they had put their demand, for the 4 million Bitcoin by February 5th. And then if that deadline wasn't met, then it's going to escalate to 6 million by February the 9th. If the first deadline was missed, okay. Then once payment is received to the Bitcoin address below, she will be released within 12 hours of deposit to a safe drop-off location back in Tucson. Let me read that again because once payment is received to the Bitcoin address below, she will be released within 12 hours of 12 hours of deposit to a safe drop location back in Tucson. If the payment is not received by the last deadline on Monday, the 9th at 5 p.m., she will be killed. Your mother is aware of this, and her life is in your hands. It is in the best interest of everyone to have this completed as soon as possible. You will not be able to contact me from here on out. There will be no negotiation. Do not play games. Law enforcement will not be able to help you. And the note included specific details about the crime scene intended to prove legitimacy, stating she had a white smartwatch that was on the floor near her bed, like at the foot of her bed, and then there was this floodlight that was destroyed in the backyard. So they had demanded $4 million in Bitcoin by Friday, February the 5th, escalating to $6 million by February the 9th if the first deadline was missed. And they said they wanted that in USD. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the second one. Give me one moment. And I've found these ransom notes. They were written out. Chris McDonough and Karen had written these, put them on they had, well, what I'm trying to say is that they had, I'm assuming they had listened to the video of the lady who had released them, and they, wrote down what it said. That's what I'm trying to say. I want to clarify that they just wrote down what she had said. So I just want to clarify that. Let me go ahead and show you the next one. This is the second ransom note. "We did not fully grasp the seriousness of her physical conditions. We never intended to hurt her. That was not our intention. She perished shortly after she was taken. We believe it was heart-related. She is buried in nature now. Nothing you could have done could have changed the outcome. We are truly sorry. So they did put like a little sorry message there. So what do you all think about these two ransom notes? Do you believe that they're real? I've heard that, Savannah, there's a couple of them that Savannah thinks that are real. What do you all think? Did anything stand out to you guys, in these ransom notes? Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this, and if there's anything that stood out to you all. And we'll try to discuss some of it. And see, if the same things stand out to everybody, or if somebody just catches something, that somebody else might not, But anyway, okay, so I am going to play the video message that Savannah released after these had came out. Let me pull it up here for you guys. And I will put you on the screen once I get it pulled up. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm going to play this note for you guys. Note. Well, we just discussed the ransom notes. This message from Savannah after this. After the full ransom notes came out.
Today with a very specific message. It has been months since our mom was taken from us. Our family is in agony. We are in a nightmare that will not end. Nothing about our situation has changed. We have done our part, and we will never stop looking for her. We will always ache for her and feel that hole in our hearts. The world can be a cruel and unforgiving place, and I know that you have tried to do things the right way. So I'm asking you, begging you, to do the right thing now. Make the right choice. Help us find her. Tell us where to look for her. I truly believe it is never too late to do the right thing. Help us bring this situation to an end. For all of us, no matter where we've been and what we've done, I believe there is always a way home. Please make the right choice.
Okay. Here, let me go ahead and go back to the screen. What did you all think about that? I used the video that was on TMZ. Thank you to TMZ for that video. It was Savannah. It was on her actual Instagram. But I don't have Instagram, so I was having a little hard time getting it, so I resorted to that. What do y'all think about that message? Did anything stand out to you all in that? I know one thing that stood out to me was where Savannah had said that they had done their part, so that left me wondering, what their part was that they had done. And then there at the end, she was saying that there's always, I don't know if I'm saying it in the right text, but that she believed that there was always a way home. Do you all think that Savannah put this message out, where the ransom notes had been released, or if it's just, time to try to open up communication with the abductors again? what do you all think about all this? If you can put your thoughts in the comments. And let's see. And then after this, and I'm gonna have to fix it. So I can pull it up for you guys. Sheriff Nanos had done an interview, and I want to try to play that for you all. He had done an interview with, whoops, I'm sorry. Hopefully that didn't affect you guys. I clicked the wrong button. But he had done an interview with a young man, Sharp Exchange. So I'll have to get the audio fixed once we go over to the page. And guys, I'm sorry I haven't been on here very much lately. I had recently found out my husband may have to have a pacemaker put in, and so I've just been kind of dealing with that, because his heart rate has been like 45. So they took him off. They took him off his medicine like half of it. Cut it in half. I'll get it out right in a minute. They cut it in half, and it had been about 2 weeks, and then he went back to his doctor, and his heart rate was still 45, so they took him completely off of his metoprolol. So we'll see how that works, but since they cut it in half and it didn't change, I'm wondering if it's going to, if his heart rate's going to pick up, with it being completely, out of the system. So we'll see how that goes. And then I also, I worked all last weekend, and then I intend on working all this weekend. And hopefully you guys will hear a little bit more from me next week. Hopefully we'll get to talk a little bit more. And guys, I'm learning this. I'm all new to it, so just please bear with me as I try to get a little bit better, and making these videos and doing the lives and stuff for you all. So you guys just, bear with me. I'm still learning, and I'm still reaching out to different people, for interviews and stuff, and haven't really had much response, but I'm still going to keep trying. So let me go ahead and get this interview. Sharp Exchange, if y'all want to go check out his channel, he seems like he did a really good interview and things. So it'll take me a moment to get the volume fixed on it. I'll try not to start. I won't start it until I'll possibly get it fixed. Let's see. Let's go to the screen here. So I'm using OBS, and it's not as simple, from what I learned, not as simple as other platforms that stream. Okay, let me try to get the language here. Not the language, with the volume fixed, so it picks up the right thing. Okay, so this is exclusive. Okay, there we go. I think I have it. Okay, let me go get this full screen so you guys can see it really well. Okay, I'm just going to play this interview for you, and it's Sharp Exchange interviewing Sheriff Nanos.
Joined now by the Pima County Sheriff, Chris Nanos, to discuss the state of the investigation. Thanks so much for joining us, sir. I know how busy you are, and so really appreciate it.
Not a problem.
I just kind of want to start out, obviously, with a generic question, and that is this Saturday marks the 6-month mark into this investigation, August the 1st. Are we any closer to figuring out kind of the main suspects here, or just getting, closer to finding out what the state of this investigation could potentially become, and how frustrating is it to, be this far into the investigation and seemingly not having the answers that you're looking for?
So that's more than one question. So let me back you up. One, yeah, are we closer? I think every day we're closer only because we have a lot of work ahead of us in terms of lab work, scientific work with DNA, working with not just our lab or the FBI lab, but labs across the country. All of these labs work together. They're sharing information. They're trying their best to find a way to get the science to work, to put together a variety of different pieces of DNA evidence to come up with a suspect. That process, just last week we had a trial here where an individual was convicted of a homicide. It was a
Right.
gruesome homicide in a very remote area of Pima County. And in less than 24 hours, we had 3 arrests made. The case was solved, and he's been prosecuted and convicted. But those kinds of cases are rare. I mean, we're a very large metropolitan area, and we have over 1 million people, seventh largest county, and this agency's team, our homicide team, works hard every day, and they were able to put together a case that quick. However, we also have what we know as our cold case unit, and cold case teams are all across the country for a reason. It's because we don't let cases just go cold and not continue to work them. The question was asked of me, is this case cold? It is not cold. We have a lot of evidence that, like I say, our scientific labs are working. There's
Yeah.
video evidence that we continue to work with, not just labs, but also some private corporations who have graciously given their time to help look at some of the video evidence and see if we can't piece things together.
Right.
And of course, there's literally thousands of tips that come in. Certainly, they're not coming in at the rate they were initially, but we still get them. In fact, I was just on an email with someone from Ireland who had a tip.
Okay.
All of these things are sent to the Guthrie Task Force, which consists of several of my detectives and several local FBI agents. So, yeah, I get the frustration,
Right.
but it's not so much my frustration as it is the community. And I understand that the community wants to know everything. This isn't TV. This is real
Of
life.
course.
In an hour's time, there's not a commercial break and we've got it solved.
Yeah.
We continue to work this case every day, and we work it hard. And so I feel confident that it's moving along, that we'll get some resolution. But unfortunately, those things just sometimes take time.
You mentioned the cold cases unit and the amount of leads that you've been receiving and how they have slowed down a little bit from the beginning of the investigation. I want to kind of follow up on that and just ask you, I know it's hard for you to quantify that, but to what extent are you willing to say that they have slowed to a trickle? They have slowed down, and has that made it perhaps harder to kind of get to a good quality lead? Or if you have fewer, does that perhaps mean they are of greater quality?
No, I think that, like any crime, you first get it, you put it out there, everybody's attentive, and they're calling in and they're giving you tips. But as time goes on, those tips do shrink. The volume lessens, and I don't think it's because there's apathy or we just don't know. I think it's because people have given us their information and they're moving on. Those tips, because I got a tip on February 2nd and we couldn't make heads or tails out of it, doesn't mean it's just dismissed.
Right.
It's something that's cataloged and put aside, and as other tips come in, they're compared with one another. Maybe we've got a piece of evidence that can relate back to a tip. Cell phone downloads might get us something. There's all kinds of information on this case. And when the public slows down their calls, I don't think it's because they don't care. I think it's they've given us, they've answered us. I think we had a plea from Savannah yesterday, and we share those sentiments. Somebody out there knows something. We know that. We want that person to call us. And so we continuously say, if you know something, call the FBI hotline, call the sheriff's department tips line, but call.
Yeah. You mentioned Savannah. Have you spoken to her recently? She released that video yesterday, and I think a lot of people are probably wondering what the status is of the relationship between your office and the family.
Well, our relationship is a good relationship. I mean, these are tough times. But no, I have not spoken with Savannah recently. She has my contact number, as you and the rest of the world seems to have. But she's very gracious, and she doesn't need to contact the sheriff. She needs a team that she's very well aware of that works with her, and she's in contact with them at any moment of day, any time of day that she needs to.
You also mentioned,
As is the rest of the family.
of course, you also mentioned the task force in one of your previous answers. Can you tell us kind of the status of that task force? How many members from the FBI? How many members from your office? And kind of how that has contributed to the investigation?
Well, so there's a core task force here. The FBI has task force all across the country.
Right.
We've been a member of their task force, a violent crime task force, for decades. This task force for the Guthrie case consists of a handful of detectives from my agency and a sergeant lieutenant and the chain of command, as well as several agents here locally. That task force, that core group, works together, and as information comes in, it may be something that requires attention from, say, Washington. Maybe it's, hey, this piece of digital evidence, we know that you guys have a team that's good at that. Can you send it out? And they'll
Right.
send it there. Just as there may be some local pieces of information that the FBI here says, hey, we need to go and find this person and interview them. So it does this in terms of its growth in that. But the core
Right.
membership has been there from day one, and they continue to meet daily.
Just for kind of a direct comparison from the beginning of the investigation, has it grown or shrunk again from the beginning period?
Oh, I think day one, it was the task force, the FBI Violent Crime Task Force, which we're a member of, right there at the scene. The membership were there. Our team was there. There's a lot was said from, I guess, Director Patel about how we delayed contacting them. I just think he's misinformed. He doesn't understand that that evening when this event was actually the afternoon of the first one we first learned of it.
Yeah.
Our detectives were called in after our search and rescue team recognized what they had, contacted our investigative teams. They immediately contacted the Violent Crime Task Force, and their representatives were there. They processed that scene early the next day, the very next day, within hours of that scene processing. I held a press conference. I think everybody has video of it, where myself and the special agent in charge from Phoenix and the agent in charge from Tucson are right there on stage with me to answer any questions. So the concept or the representation that the FBI was held off and boy, we wish we'd have been there early on. That's just not even accurate. They were there day one, just as my team was.
Just to follow up on that, because you're referencing Kash Patel's appearance on Fox News, where he had said that if the FBI had been brought in earlier, there could have been more video discovered. I'm wondering kind of more directly what your response is to that and what the status of your relationship is with specifically the FBI director.
Well, I don't know the FBI director. I've never met him. So my relationship is what we see or hear as you do
Right.
on the news. But that's fine. He's a busy man. He's got a big job, just as I do. What's more important is what is my relationship, and more important than that, my team's relationship with the local FBI office here that we work with
Right.
every day on all kinds of cases. It's a great relationship. Look, Director Patel, he has information flow to him from across the world, probably.
Hmm.
Just as I get information, I've got 1,500 employees, and it gets up to me.
Yeah.
Sometimes that information is filtered. It's not any with any kind of intent, ill intent, or anything. It
Of
just
course.
happens. So
Yeah.
I think that Cash Director Patel heard information early on that just was inaccurate, and he certainly doesn't owe me an explanation or a question or anything. He's the director of the FBI. But when the information is put out there that's not accurate, I think it helps, it hurts the case. And so individuals like yourself to come out and ask for accurate information from
Mhm.
me, I never have a problem answering.
And we appreciate you doing so. I want to switch gears a little bit to some of the physical evidence, and I know you're going to be limited as to what you can say on this front. There's been a report that the back door and the back gate were propped open, reportedly with flower pots. Was that true? And if so, was that done for the intruder to make some kind of a faster exit?
So, again, a couple of questions there. First of all, you're right. I can't talk to the scene or what's there. I know that's frustrating for everybody. I try to be
It's
as
understandable, I will
transparent with
say.
my
Yeah.
media as I can and
Hmm.
my community, but we do have to protect some of the integrity of the investigation. If that was the case, or why that happened, or anything, that's all speculative, and we don't get into that. We investigate it, gather all the facts, put together a team, and try to work it from there.
There's also been, again, I know you might have the same answer here, but just in terms of the blood patterns, both inside and outside of the house, not necessarily am I asking you to confirm where the blood was, because I know you probably can't get into that, but did the location of the blood help your investigation in determining perhaps, where she was taken to, or again, just anything that you can tell us there?
But, again, I'm sorry,
It's
Wyatt.
okay.
I'm not going to talk about the actual scene or anything of any of the location of evidence that was obtained. Um, again, my apologies, but I just
No
can't.
problem. No problem. Again, very understandable. 5 months ago with Elizabeth Vargas, you had said, and this is kind of, I think, it's the uncomfortable and unfortunate question that, but I think it has to be asked. And that was, again, 5 months ago with Elizabeth Vargas on News Nation, you said you believe that Nancy Guthrie was still alive. I haven't seen you, directly answer that recently. Can you tell us kind of what your analysis would be on that front right now?
It's a question that I'm asked often.
Hmm.
And I guess my answer to you would simply be this. I understand why people would say she's dead. I
Yeah.
get that. But where's the benefit in my believing she's dead when there's no proof of her death in front of me? I understand the investigation, all the thoughts of her whereabouts. Everybody has a right to have an opinion and voice it. Um, but as the sheriff of Pima County, as the head of the law enforcement here in this community, what is the benefit of the sheriff
Hmm.
saying she's dead?
Yeah, of
If the
course.
family believes that there's hope, that there's some chance that she might still be with us, why should I crush that hope?
Right.
There's no evidence to show it. Trust me, if we find something that indicates a burial site or something of that nature, absolutely, we're going to
Yeah.
share that. That's critical. But we're going to share it with the family. And so my personal beliefs, um, really, that's what they are. I believe that I'm going to support the Guthrie family every way possible. And if they believe she's alive, so do I.
In terms of some of the DNA, standard DNA testing, obviously it varies in terms of how long it takes. You said recently, though, that you still have a lot of DNA to go through and kind of assess the validity of it, if you will. Is the holdup now that it is forensic familial genealogy and you're kind of trying to, tick them off in kind of a family tree type setting to eliminate members of the family? Or I know you've said to an extent that all of them have been cleared. But the way that the Golden State Killer case was worked, for example, is there any comparisons from this case to that one?
So, uh, the DNA, first of all, I am no expert. In DNA, when I started 20 years ago, it was just breaking out. My team is way above me and discussing that with me.
Right.
They just get it and they understand it, and that makes me feel pretty comfortable in knowing the right people are working this case. But more important than just my investigators, it is the lab. Those are the scientists, and
Hmm.
they have rules, just like courts. We have rules and procedures and policies we have to follow to keep the investigation credible.
Of course.
Labs are no different. They have their rules of science that they have to go through. So I think what you were asking is, are we at familial
Hmm.
type of DNA, not just our genetic DNA?
Yeah.
Are we doing something to find maybe it's the second cousin that
Yeah.
what I would tell you is both. We're doing all of it. And
Okay.
that's really the labs are doing it all. They're looking at genealogy, but they're also looking at specific pieces of evidence that they're hoping to get enough codi to say, this is who we're looking at.
And again, to your earlier comment about how you do still have a lot of DNA to progress through, are you able to quantify that at all as to how long it might take to get through the DNA that investigators and those on this scene have pulled?
Not really, not me. The labs may,
Hmm.
but I think the labs, this science is so fast, all science, today's world, so fast moving.
Of course.
And they are looking at some pretty cool stuff out there, if you will, about DNA and how it can be used, not in just these cases, but in other scientific um, uh, genealogy cases.
Hmm.
So they're careful, as they should be. Absolutely nobody wants to arrest the wrong person. And so we have those, if you will, parameters that say, here's the guidelines. And we have to trust our labs to know those guidelines and not to push them, to allow them to do their job and come back to us and say, we think we're here and we need to be over here.
Right.
Can you do this for us? Can you get us this? Is there any chance of this? It's probably more complex than we want to get into, but I'll say this: the communication with our labs is ongoing. It's daily. They know the technology. They know that, for example, a lab in Kansas might be on the verge of something new, groundbreaking over here, where there's a lab in LA that's on the groundbreaking. They're just working in the case as a priority, and they're working it nationwide.
There was a reporter who recently read one of the notes, ransom notes, that was on the record, and it referenced something to the effect of outside of Tucson. Setting aside the notes, obviously, the side that the FBI is handling, do you believe the person responsible for this could still very well be in the Tucson area?
Oh, absolutely. Could be, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
we constantly talk about, um, uh, we've got the same information you have that the cartels took her, or somebody in New York has her, or where we hear that. I think the key for you to understand there is all of this information that's out there, we take it all very seriously.
Yeah.
Um, and we have to. And we investigate every single lead until we can't follow it any further, or until we can. The and this adds to the frustration.
Hmm.
When we talk of ransom notes, look at the number of ransom notes that have
Yeah.
come in and led to arrest for fraud, right?
Hmm.
It's a shame that people want to do that, to take advantage of or try to take advantage of the system. And it's also a shame that we have to stop what we're doing to try to figure out what this is about. But
Yeah.
it's part of it. It really is. And so every time somebody calls in with a ransom note, they need to know we're going to investigate it to its fullest. And should we find you, you will be charged
Hmm.
and held accountable. I think a young man in California recently got sentenced 10 years or something like
Hmm.
that. Just look, don't do that.
Yeah, of course.
If I had anything to tell you, don't put yourself at risk there.
Hmm.
We are working this very closely. We know the ransom notes that exist. We hand them to the FBI. They're experts in that field, and we keep up with what's going on there. But yeah, every note is taken extremely serious.
There was the tip that came in a little while ago about Nogales and Sonora in Mexico. I know you commented on it before, but do you think there should have been perhaps a bigger or earlier effort to coordinate with the Mexican authorities?
Well, I don't know what earlier on was or what you talk about coordination. We work here on the southern Arizona border. In fact,
Hmm.
Pima County has the largest shared border with Mexico than any county in the nation, 126 miles. We have not just with the FBI, but with DEA and ICE and others, task force members all across this county. And so we know when crimes occur that yes, there's a chance that somebody may try to get into Mexico, or we use our federal partners because who has those relationships?
Hmm.
Typically DEA, ICE, HSI, FBI, and so we are constantly in touch with them. Without getting into, again, too much detail, we know of those existence and we work with those agencies down there. When we get tips that, I think we had one here recently that there were bodies found in Mexico, and we immediately gave that to
Yeah.
the FBI, and they within hours learned that it was not related at all. So,
Okay. I want to go back to something that you mentioned before as well, because you had said that obviously with the ransom notes and people trying to profit off of it and stuff, it speaks to kind of this broader problem, and that is that when you have a case like this in the public eye, it can be helpful to an extent because you get all of the leads that you referenced earlier, but you also have people with bad motives and bad incentives. And in Pima County, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last before this happened, big example of a crime, or at least one that kind of captivated and got the nation's attention, was the shooting of Gabby Giffords. I wonder how, from your perspective, it has been having to deal with, say, the YouTubers who are trying to get into the scene. I know you've talked about that before, and just more broadly, again, some of the bad faith actors who have been involved here.
So first of all, I headed up the investigation of the Giffords shooting,
Mm-hmm.
and we worked hand in hand again, just like we did today, are doing today, with the FBI. Um, that wasn't a whodunit, but certainly it was a very critical investigation and needed to be conducted properly. And to the point of here in Pima County, and these critical cases come up, and YouTubers and the media, media's changed. I've been at this
Mm-hmm.
game since 1976, and we think of mainstream media, and then you also have now all the social media, and you have the YouTubers, if you will, or influencers. It's just constantly evolving. I can always get into the argument or discussion about ethics for journalists and this, that, but I think that's a better discussion had by people like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, mainstream media. What I when I talk about the YouTubers or those that have been in the neighborhood, I talk about them in regards that says you still have a level of professionalism you have
Yeah.
to maintain. You can't just go into a community, a neighborhood, and start harassing people because they're tired of seeing you.
Yeah, of course.
They don't understand your position. And I get the First Amendment rights and all of those things, but I liken it to this. You live in an apartment complex and you can have your music on as loud as you like during the daytime. But at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, 1 in the morning, it gets a little bit disruptive. It's no longer your right to listen to that music at that volume or that
Yeah, of
you have
course.
disrupted the others. The same here for the YouTubers, and I've said this. If you can conduct yourself professionally and get in and out of the neighborhood, I have no problems with that. But when the neighbors call us continuously, literally, we did a study here to show in that neighborhood is a great neighborhood for us in terms of
Mhm.
crime and relationships with the community. we had probably 50 calls there the whole time, the last 6 months. And that's an average over 5, 6, 7 years.
Right.
This year, in those same 5, 6 months, it tripled. We had like 180, 200 calls. It is a disruption to the neighborhood. I think that neighborhood originally was very gracious to a number of reporters. Maybe you were out there, I don't know, but they allowed them into their homes. They allowed them to sit in their drives.
Yeah.
They took them in understanding that you have an important job to do, and your job helps me get my job done.
Yeah.
But beyond that, after a while, it was a nuisance. And when the neighbors asked those to leave, that most did. A very few, very small percentage refused and really got in the face of the neighbors. It just got ugly. And I still have a job to do.
Yeah.
And as much as I want to help you get your job accomplished, I ask that you be respectful
Of
to my
course.
community. And that's all that
Yeah.
was.
Of course, I just want to conclude our interview here by asking you about going back to Savannah Guthrie, because I mean, that is really the Guthrie family, the ones who have been facing this unimaginable tragedy, and in Savannah's case, having to do it in front of the entire world, which, no one can really imagine what that would be like. In terms of, the pace in which the investigation is moving, from the conversations that you might have had with her in the past, do you think there's any degree where, the Guthrie family is frustrated with not just your department, but some of the other law enforcement agencies, in terms of wanting it to move faster?
Well, I'm sure they're like everybody, right? We've all been in situations where we want right now. I'm no different. I'm sure that still exists with them. But I don't believe, in fact, I have zero indication that the family is frustrated with law enforcement and really angry with us. In fact, I believe the opposite. I believe
Yeah.
that they know that we too have some challenges to overcome, that we too have a difficult task in front of us. But that task doesn't, as compassionate as we want to be,
Hmm.
um, we still have to stay focused on what's in front of us. And someday, hopefully soon, we'll get the resolution that we're looking for and wanting on this case. But I just kind of ask the public, the media, even the family to understand and know that we're working this case every single day. We are we check. I check in with my team pretty much regularly, at least weekly, if not daily. Sometimes, in fact, we have a meeting here this afternoon, and it's really not that I have this great mind and need to know all this information to solve the case. What
Right.
I'm checking in on is their stamina, their energy, and I'm going in there with some reservations that, man, I hope I'm not seeing them shoulders slumping and they're feeling defeated. It, to the contrary,
Right.
every time I meet with this team, they are pumped. They are excited and energetic, and every lead they get, they are working hard. And so I guess what I would tell people is, look, it is frustrating for you because you don't know what we know.
Yeah.
The family is certainly frustrating to them, but it's
Yeah.
also frustrating to our teams. But they continue to put the white noise aside. I tell them, I got to be a duck, got to let it roll off me, and we just keep working. And so that's what we do.
All right, we will leave it there. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos, thanks so much for the time.
Okay, that was the interview from Sharp Exchange with Sheriff Chris Nanos. Do you all think the sheriff answered any questions for you? What do you all think about this interview? Let me know in the comments. Did it give you more questions? Actually, I have reached out to Sheriff Nanos and just recently, so I haven't got a reply yet requesting an interview. Some of my questions, I'd like to know more about the DNA. I'd like to, I know he spoke about it there, but I don't, if you all understood it a little bit more than me, let me know. But I'd like to know if he knows exactly, where some of it's at. If they've got, was able to get that DNA profile, and if they are going through the family trees and stuff. I mean, I'd just like to know, kind of where we're at on that. If they is able to separate those the samples. Yeah, I would just like to know more about that. What about you guys? I don't know if he knows any more about it, but I would like to ask him, if he does. I'd like to find out that. And then also, I don't think I've heard anybody mention it lately, but I've still kind of hung to it. I'd like to know, where they're at on, I think it was on Google Trends that someone had done a search. I want to say it was back in June or July 2025. It may have been a couple times in that month that they had done a Google search, on Nancy's, the location of Nancy's home. And then they also done, a Google search on Savannah's salary. And then on January the 11th, 2026, somebody also done a search on the location of Nancy's home. And then, January the 11th, that's popped out, in this case a few times. They were asking about, any kind of video footage on January the 11th. And then I believe it was January the 11th, people had seen, a strange man walking down the road with his hat pulled down over his face. So, yeah, that's sus to me. So I'd like to know if they've been able to identify where that has came from, where those searches has came from. Because, I think that could possibly give them, a good lead. I mean, what's the chances, somebody searching where she lives, and then people seeing that, that strange person there on that date, and them coming up with that date, and then possibly one of those videos was from that date. I'm not sure, but possibly. Not the one with the backpack, but the video without the backpack. Oh, and then also, okay, well, I'm going to show you that. That's something I wanted to show you guys too. So let me see if I can get that ready. Let's see. And I'm going to go see if I can go straight to this Instagram, possibly. No, it's not Instagram, it's X. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, right here. I want to pull. It's going to take me a minute, guys. Well, just a few seconds, hopefully, to. Well, no, I don't really have to, because it don't have no sound to this video. But I'll pull this off and show you guys right off the FBI Director Kash Patel's X. It was on February the 10th when these. Okay. So, okay, he posted this stuff February the 10th. Okay, and then that other was January 11th. Okay. I was getting a little confused there for a second. But I'm going to go ahead and try to go through some of these videos of the perpetrator, and you guys watch, if you guys recognize this person, their gait, anything about them, be sure to call 1-800, call FBI, if you think you know this man. I believe it's a man. This person, yeah, if anybody has any tips, on this, call 1-800, call FBI, or you can visit tips.fbi.gov. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to the screen and show you the pictures and the videos of the porch guy. That's what we've all come to call him. So we'll go ahead and see if we can. Okay, here's one still picture of him. Let y'all look at that for a minute. And you see he's got his holster right here. Looks like he's kind of got some healthy thighs there, Got the gloves and the mask and the backpack. Okay, let's go ahead and see this. This is the one I'm thinking that may have been taken January the 11th, but I'm not sure. It could have been the same night, but he don't have the backpack. This person doesn't have the backpack on. There's some dark right there at his shoes. Let's look back here at this one and see if there's dark at his shoes. At the bottom, dark at the bottom, but not there at the top. I don't know. See the darkness right there at the shoes? I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Is that the same person? And there's lights back here and then little lights here. Okay. Now here's a video of him. Ew. Somebody who would do that to a 94-year-old lady. Not good. Now he's reaching to get the foliage. Try to cover the camera. Do you guys notice anything familiar about this guy? Anyone recognize the way his gout? Anyone recognize anything about him? He needs to be found. Okay, I think it's just playing it. Let's see. He's just playing. I think it's playing it over, right? Yeah, there's when he's reaching to get the foliage. Let's go ahead and go on to the next. Here's where he's trying to put that over the camera or whatever he's trying to do with it. He's got that little light in his mouth, and right there's a light on the side there. I don't know what that. So we're all busy trying to look and see what he's doing, and right here's a light over here. I don't know where it's coming from. It's gone now. Oh no, down there. There. Yeah, there's a light there. If anyone recognizes this person, be sure to get in contact with the FBI. Miss Nancy needs justice. Okay, let's see if we got anything else. Got another. Yeah, right here. bent over walking up there. More over toward the side a little bit. Lights in the background there. It's got reflectors up here, looks like. Okay, I believe that might be all of it. Let's see, but here's a picture. Maybe we can pull it up. Yeah, there's a picture of his face here. Somebody's posted something there. But anyway, okay. Let's go back here. I just wanted to, I know all of you guys have seen those pictures, you know, already in the videos and stuff, but it don't hurt a bit. I think it actually helps for us to see it again and realize, you know, what this lady has went through. And hopefully somebody out there, you know, who knows something, you know, might recognize this person and can call the FBI and let them know, you know. But okay, guys, I just wanted to share those updates with you. You guys probably already seen, you know, most of it and stuff. If y'all keep up with it, you know, the way I try to. I mean, even though I'm not posting anything, don't mean I'm not keeping up with it. But yeah, I just wanted to share all that information, you know, together. And you guys let me know in the comments, you know, what you guys think. I'd like to, you know, have a discussion with you all about the case. And okay, I also want to let you know I'm getting very close to having the t-shirts completed, the Rain Ops t-shirts. I'm getting very close to having that done. One is perfect. There's one of them I'm still trying to get perfect, the way I feel it needs to be. So I'm working on those, and then I'm going to try to work on some hats and maybe some coffee cups, and so it's getting a little bit cooler, maybe a hoodie. So I'm working on the Rain Ops gear for us, guys. It just take me a little bit longer, but it might not be too long before we have the t-shirts up and ready to, you know, sell. So, but we need to really, you know, come together on these cases and, you know, try to see what we can figure out. I wanted to mention that the Jaden Spicer case, I think his mother, well, I know at least his mother, I think maybe his stepfather, they may go back to court first part of August. I want to say August the 6th, but I'm not certain on that. I'd have to look it up again, but I'll check on that. But I know, I'm pretty sure it's at least his mother is going to go back to court, but it has been, they've had a lot of delays in this case. That's the reason nobody's heard much about it. That's the little boy whose mother is, who allegedly killed him. Well, she's charged, I guess, she has a murder charge on her, so I'm trying to say that right, you know, because, you know, you're innocent until proven guilty, but, you know, the evidence, you know, we gotta look at the evidence, you know. So, that, and, well, I haven't heard anything on the Mickey Steins case. I haven't heard any of the motions, you know, what the judge decided to do about those. I haven't heard anything on those yet, but I'm assuming we should hear something soon, I would imagine, because it's been quite a while. And as you all know, the Renata Bailey case, you know, the guy had took a plea deal, and but her mother is trying to get that bill passed, the law, I guess that's what it is. Change.org. You can look up Renata Bailey and Renata's Law. I'm sorry. You can look at Renata's Law and see if you'd like to sign that petition. And I'm pretty sure that there was a law, Jaden's Law, and I think a lot of the lawmakers, push that. So, you probably could look that up there too. See, should be able to have an update shortly on the Summer Wells case. Not that Summer's been found or anything, but there's a couple that went and interviewed Dawn and Candace. I'm going to try to have a little update on that, and I'll tell you a little bit about that when they're breaking it down into parts. And I'll let you know, who. And if you want to go ahead and, it's the Hatfield McCoy Museum. They just showed up, at Dawn and Candace's house and asked them, to interview. If they could interview them, asked them if they could come up, and Dawn said, yeah. Candace wasn't really happy with it, but I'm assuming later on, she gets feeling better about it. I had sent them a request through email. I'm not sure if the email is still active or not, and I don't have their phone number to call and speak with them. But I was I had sent them a request, for an interview, and I haven't heard anything back. But I'm glad that the Hatfield McCoy Museum, Fred and Sheila, I'm glad that they were able to interview Dawn and Candace. I'm looking forward to hearing listen and watch, watch the next segment that they have. But yeah, you guys go over and check them out. They may have it up today, the second part. I'm not sure. It's coming up though, but the first part is on there. If y'all want to go ahead and watch that, but we'll cover it too. And you guys, if there's any cases you want us to look into, or if you got any thoughts on some of the cases we're already following. Oh, and I also, I have you guys here. Also wanted to mention that I heard about the grandmother in the Siders, and she is requesting to have her bond, let's see if I'm saying it right, modified, because I guess she don't have the money, the $300,000 to pay, and she's wanting to try to be able to get out of jail. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but that's something that she's requesting. So we'll have to keep our eyes open on that. And I haven't heard anything else about Sebastian Rogers since, his dad had filed the lawsuit. And I would love to talk to his dad, Seth. So Seth, if you're out there and you're hearing this, or anybody has his contact information, get a hold of me. Hopefully we could have an interview with Seth. Keep Sebastian's name out there, keep Summer's name out there. That's what it's about. It's about, and Nancy, is about, justice for them, and it's about the victims in these cases. I don't like pointing fingers at people. Because, I can point my finger and really feel like I'm right, but that don't mean necessarily that I am, We gotta watch it. We gotta see the evidence, guys, and that's just how I feel about it. We gotta have that evidence. But, okay, guys, I just wanted to touch base with you all and let you know what's been going on, with these cases and what's been going on in my life and stuff. I do plan on working all weekend, but I'm hoping next week I'm off, so I'm hoping to get spend a little bit more time with you guys. And you guys reach out to me in the comments, okay? And I really appreciate having you guys here. Really means a lot to me, it does. And y'all let me know what you think about Savannah's message. And if y'all think the suspect's movements, or anything, stood out to you, if you think this person, contact the FBI, call 1-800-FBI. If you think the person on that video, porch guy. And let me know what you think about the ransom notes and stuff. Even, we've got all these developments, but there's still many unanswered questions, on all these cases, I'd love to hear your thoughts. And what updates do you think was most significant this week, this past little while? Do you think one of these new pieces of information changed direction of the investigation? Or are we still waiting for that one breakthrough? You guys thinking the DNA might be that one breakthrough? I don't know. I'm really curious about the Google Trends, the searches. I think that's something right there. I do. But guys, so reach out to me in the comments, and I love to talk with you all. I'd like to have a discussion on some of these cases with you guys. See how you feel about it. We can learn together, guys. But anyway, hopefully I'll get to talk to you all very soon. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.